Welcome, Ready family, to week 2 of our math portion of the Ready program. Again, let me remind you that we're not leaving literacy behind. We are integrating literacy with our math. This week, we are going to focus on number recognition. Now, number recognition, like letter recognition, develops in a specific order. Typically, a child learns to match their letters. They don't know the name of the letter. They can't even point to the letter if you had it in a group of others, but they're able to match it. Oh, this one looks like that one. This 0 looks like this 0. This particular shape, they're able to match them. So if in the beginning, that's where you want to start, we can do that too. You put out the numbers and just have them match and talk about them. The next developmental stage is they're able to point to the letter or point to the number. They may not be able to name that letter yet, but they can point to it out of a field of them. So if you were to say, find me the B, they can point to it and find it. But if you were asked to ask them, what letter is this? They can't do that part of it. It's a very interesting developmental process. So like our letter recognition, we are going to begin with our number recognition this week. So in your supplies, you have these numbers. And I love this activity because your child is going to learn how to write the numbers. So we're going to be talking about their formation. There's some movement in with this. And so you may want to do these. You can cut them apart or you can keep them in this. But again, you want to make sure and use your pouch, your dry erase pouch, so that we can keep these looking like they do and they don't get marked on. But again, just like with our letters, you can talk about each of these before you do any writing. You can talk about how the finger moves around before using a writing utensil in order to make that particular number. You can talk about the name of the number. On each of these cards, there is a fun little rhyme that helps your child learn the correct formation of the number. And I love these. Like for number 1, it says straight line down and then you're done. That's the way you make a 1. Start at the top, straight line down. It gives that direction in that particular little rhyme. So these are very important to do when your child's doing this activity, because as they're writing the number 1 with their dry erase marker, or as they're doing it with their finger, you recite this and then they can learn to say it with you. Straight line down and then you're done. That's the way you make a 1. And then we have this one, around and around we go. And when we get home, we have a 0. So you start at the starting place up at the top, around and around you go. And when we get home, we have a 0. So each of the numbers in our set here have a rhyme to go with them. And we have the numbers all the way up to 15, I believe. Now, you don't have to do all of these. I encourage you just to start off with a few of them, especially if your child is just learning their numbers and recognizing their numbers. But our goal in this number recognition, just like our letters, that we're able to identify the number, we're able to write the number, make the number, and we're able to give a representation for that number. That means we're able to create a group of objects that shows that particular amount, or we're able to look at a representation for that number. And just by looking and not counting, we see that that group of objects represents the number 1. For instance, if we have the number 1, we're able to identify it, we're able to write it, and then we can look at one dot and say, oh, that's one. Or we can look at a group of 5 dots together, and without counting, we recognize that representation as 5. So again, we're able to identify, we're able to write it, and we're able to recognize a representation of that number with a group of objects. So first activity this week is our number of the day. Again, we're going to be learning how to make correct formations of the number and encourage that reciting the rhyme as we do it. And your child will learn to memorize these. And as they write the number, they'll learn that correct formation because they'll have that rhyme in the back of their head, and you'll hear them saying that over and over. So again, just introducing the first few numbers. We don't want to overwhelm. We want mastery with these. So start off slow, and as your child masters the first few numbers, we will add more. So our number of the day with our protective pouch and our dry erase marker. Have fun with those rhymes. Our second activity this week is called Roll It, Write It, Count It. For this activity, you're going to need this particular handout, and you're going to put it in a protective pouch because we are writing, and you're going to use this for all the numbers. We don't have one for each number. You'll see at the top, there's some dice. So you're going to find the dice in your supplies. And to start off with, we're going to use just one die, and your child will roll it. And then he will identify. That's how we look at that, being able to recognize that number using objects. And they may have to count it at first. What do you see? The number 2. And then they're going to write the number 2 with their dry erase marker. Again, you may need to make dots for your child to trace over. You can use our number cards as a model for them out to the side. So they roll the 2, show them the number 2, recite that rhyme so they can do it. So you can trace it for them first, have them trace over it. You can have that as a model. You can make several of them so they can write several of the number. You know, right here, you could have trace 3 or 4 number 2s and let them trace over it. Have the model for them. But again, we want them to roll it, identify the number, write that number, and then they're going to count it. That means they are going to take available to them in your supplies, whether it's the pom-poms, it's the pony beads, they're going to take and count out that number to represent it. So they would put 2 pom-poms or 2 pony beads. So roll the dice, identify the number, write the number, and then count it. So they have all of those, seeing it, writing it, one-to-one correspondence. You can even use a snack item, and that makes it kind of an incentive to keep going because they get to, it's almost a game because they roll it, write it, and then they get to eat what they count. So goldfish, you know, little, you know, any kind of gummies, fruit snacks, some kind of snack is fun to use for this activity. Roll it, write it, count it. The next activity is one we did in our first half of the year, and that is with our Feed the Monster activity. Now, this activity was designed in the beginning just to increase that writing hand, that dominant hand, by building that muscles to help them use their writing utensil and get that hand strong. So again, we encourage using both the dominant and non-dominant hand to do this activity. And this time when we feed the monster, we are going to be using our number recognition. So again, you get out your dice, start off with 1. that where your child is, just learning the numbers 1 through 6, have them roll the dice, and then they're going to count out that many, whatever that is on the dice, 4, 5, 6, whatever, they're going to count out that many items to feed the monster. So we roll the dice, and then we have our objects to count. They can either count them on the table, or they can count as they feed the monster. I kind of like them to, I think it's reinforcing to do it on the table first. So they look at the dice, they have to count on the dice, 1-to-1 correspondence, count out. Then they count out the objects on the table and to match that number. And then they actually count as they feed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. That's what I rolled. I rolled a 5. I'm going to feed the monster 5. I counted it on the dice. I counted it all out on the table, and then I counted as I fed the monster. So it's really reinforcing that counting. So we have our recognizing the number by the symbol representation of the number. It's not the actual number symbol, but the representation of that number. So that's the skill we're working on. They actually count it out on the dice. They count it out as the object, and then they count it as they feed. So feed the monster again, working on our strengthening our hand for our literacy component of this, but it's a math activity. Fun activity, feed the monster. Enjoy that one. The next activity is called walk the number line. You can walk that number line, or you can hop that number line, whatever your child is ready to do. Number lines can be a little confusing because the starting point of the number line, just like on a ruler, think of the ruler as a number line, the starting point is 0. So that first spot where your child is going to start counting isn't 1. The first spot is that next segment out that you create of the number line. So you're going to need 2 things. You're going to need your tape to create the number line if you're working indoors. And you're going to need your playing cards. We're going to be using these playing cards for a lot of activities. Playing cards are actually a really neat thing for math because they have the number for your child to identify, and they also have that representation, number representation using symbols. So it's a great way for them to learn to do their number recognition because it's represented in symbols, the numbers on there, and they can also count. So we use that deck of cards for a lot of activities. Now I've gone ahead and for this first time around with our number line hop or walk the number line, I've just picked out the first 5 cards. I went ahead and got all of them. And on the spades or on the aces, you may want to go ahead and color over the A for the ace and go ahead and put the number 1 up to you. I went ahead, some people just mark it off. You can either color it completely or just leave it as is and write the number 1 off to the side. So they're going to be using our playing cards. Use that video to create the number line. But what you're going to do is you're going to take this tape, you're going to create a fairly decent, because we're using movement. We're using that whole body learning. We're going to move it. We're going to count it. We're going to say it and hear it and move it. So your child's really getting that, incorporating all total body learning. So you're going to take your tape, you're going to create a straight line out, and then you're going to make a number line for each number that you're working on. Again, let's start simple. You may want to just do your first 3 numbers, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And you can get the spades, you can get the diamonds, get each suit of cards, pull those out. So you're going to make a number line for the number 1. You're going to make a second number line to represent 2. And then you're going to make a third number line to represent 3. So the 3 number line will be a straight line, and then there'll be 3 cross segments to indicate number 1, number 2, number 3. Again, this is going to be flat on the floor and they're going to walk or jump it out. So the cards will be out on the floor. Again, the hearts, the diamonds, the clubs, and the spades face down. Your child will select a card and we'll talk about what number it's. What number is this? They don't know. Easy way to find out. 1, 2, 3. You might even recite that little rhyme to help them remember when we write it. This is what we say to make that number 3. So then they're going to go to the number line that represents 3. It will have 3 designated marks on it. And then there you can set this card out on that third line, that cross hash mark, and then start at the front of the number line and walk to the first one. 1, 2, 3. Have your child count as they walk it, or they can hop it. Hop to the first mark. 1, that's 1. Second mark on the number line is 2, and then hop to the third. Then they can pick another card, and they may pick the number 1. And then they're going to go to the number line that represents 1, and they're going to hop that out and lay the card down until you've gone through all the cards. This is a fun activity. We're going to be adding the numbers as we go, so the number line will get longer. And I think once they master that idea of the number line, you could probably just make one long one. Once we're moving up and we're doing, you know, up to number 10 and that number line is fairly long, then you can go ahead and just have the one number line. But when we start off, we want to make 3 different ones because we're introducing that concept that the number line has segments. That first segment mark represents the number 1. That second is the number 2. The third one is the number 3. So as we're just learning our numbers and learning that idea of a number line, we're going to create more than just one number line. So walk the number line is our activity, and it's a fun one because that's that total body movement, and the kids really love to move around when they're learning it. It really helps imprint that concept on their brain. So have fun with walk the number line. Our next activity this week is called sticky letters. Back to our literacy. You should have already had this created and have been working on this. Again, this one I have, I'm just showing my A through F, but we have take our sentence strip with our letters on it. And then we have, I know some of you do it this way where you have the letter and then they match the uppercase to it and the lowercase underneath. And we're going to review the letters that we've talked about, review the ones that they've mastered, and keep working on the ones that they're having difficulty with. Again, matching is usually the first skill that's developed, and then being able to point to a letter, and then last being able to name it. So you may say, find the letter A for me, and they can recognize it that way. And then they can name the letter, and whether it's uppercase, you can talk about it, match the uppercase to the uppercase, and talk about lowercase, use that academic vocabulary. So we're still doing sticky notes and we're still reviewing the letters, but we are really talking about not only the letter names and uppercase and lowercase, but the letter sounds as well. So this is a review and still a learning for many of you. We may have just been able to identify some of the letters, and we're not up to letter sounds yet, and that's fine. We want your child to be successful, not frustrated. Again, we say that often, but you know, it's not a race to see how many we can get the most of them and kind of know them. We want them to be mastered. I'd rather have a child know 5 letters and know them really, really well than kind of know 20 and get confused. It's really mastery is the goal here. So our sticky notes is an activity for this week. Again, talk about the letter name, uppercase, lowercase, the sounds. You can even talk about a word that begins with that sound, maybe even give them a word, b, and then they find the letter that matches that sound. So there's different ways to do it. Again, on our parent page, our Ready page, I've seen a lot of parents do some really creative ideas. If you're not participating in that, I encourage you to do so, because you'll be surprised at some of the activities that the parents are coming up with, and you can get some really good ideas. And it's a great way to, ask questions of other parents, how they do things, because, what we do here in front of the, on the videotape and what we do in class is a lot different than what you're doing, can do at home. So, what you're doing at home is just as important, even if not more so. Your child, where they're learning and where they feel comfortable. So get some ideas from other parents, and, get on that Facebook page and get some ideas. But our sticky notes for literacy review this week. The next activity this week is Hop on Words. This is an opportunity for your child to continue to review their high frequency words and also to learn some new ones. This week we are adding 3 new ones: and, she, and he to the mix. This activity, you can use those flashcards, or you can write them on index cards if you're doing it inside. And again, if you're doing it inside, to prevent slipping, you might want to tape these down to the floor. If you're doing it outside, you can write with chalk. So this activity, Hop on Words, to review our high frequency words. You're going to put out some words. You don't have to put all of them out. Again, we're introducing 3 new ones. So you may want to just introduce these 3 plus 2 they really know, plus their name to hop on. But you're going to call out a word, and they're going to find it and hop on it, and then ask them, what word did you hop on? Again, there's that asking questions to get them to repeat it and give a sentence back. Not just I hop, just, what word did you hop on? And they say, and. I hopped on, and encourage that complete sentence. That oral language is really important. Sometimes we take the easy way out and we give 1 or 2 word responses. We really want them to use that I at the beginning to give that complete sentence. So the hop on words, a good movement activity, indoors or outdoors with the chalk, or inside with the cards. Tape them down so we don't slip. And again, if your child has mastered several words, use those and the new ones. Or if you want to just put a few out at a time so we can get that mastery, and always include their name, because that's an important one for them to learn, and a lot of them have already learned that. That's a big one for them wanting to learn, so they've already mastered that. You can include some other names of the family if you want to. But again, Hop on Words is a fun one to review those high frequency words, introducing 3 new ones this week: and, he, and she, and a good movement activity. Have fun with Hop on Words. The next math activity this week for number recognition is called pony bead counting, because we're going to be using our pony beads. You have pipe cleaners in your supplies, and we're also going to use the painting tape to create little flags on top of the pipe cleaners. I encourage at the beginning, we're just going to use, I made pipe cleaners up through 6, but I would say 1 through 5. And I took my pipe cleaner and I folded it in half just to make it a little thicker, so the pony bead stays on and it's a little bit harder to get that pony bead. And I curved it over at the top, almost like a candy cane, just a small one at the top. Put that tape, doubled it over, and then wrote the number. So what your child will do with each of these, they'll pick up one of the little number flags, and they'll identify the number. And then they're going to take their pony beads. You can put these out on a small plate. They'll identify that number, and then they're going to put that many pony beads on, count as they go, 1, 2, and then they have a number representation of that number. So they're doing one-to-one counting the objects. You can go back and count again, 1, 2. This is the number 2. Great activity for independence. If you're cooking, they can sit at the table and do this activity, and you can come back and check their work, encouraging that independence. It's a great activity to take in the car. If you have an appointment and it's nice little busy work, put it in a Ziploc bag and have your pony beads in there and your little numbers on the pipe cleaner. Great activity to keep them busy. So you can do all the numbers up through 10 and then have your little pony beads on it. I like this little activity. There's a lot you can do with this, and we'll talk about that as we go on with the pony beads and the numbers. So pony bead counting, make your little pipe cleaner and flags ahead of time for this activity. And then you have your pony beads all ready to go. Pony bead counting. Last, I want to encourage you to continue the calendar and my numbers and shape book. Keep working in that book with the shapes, a different shape each day. And don't forget the calendar. This might be a fun thing to do first thing every day when you get ready to do your activities with your child. Talk about what day it is. So we're doing the days of the week this week. And then as you have filled these in, you can either have the numbers completely filled in already, or you can add the number as you go. So if you're starting off and you talk about today is the 16th, and you write the number 16 on the calendar for them, and you can talk about all the days we've had in the month of January, and today is the 16th of January, and tomorrow we have school, and on Friday we're going to do a play date with your friend, and you can mark that on the calendar. You talk about it's Monday and how Monday we come all the way down, and there's the word Monday, and tomorrow will be Tuesday. So don't forget to use this calendar. Get it out at the beginning of your activities before you start, and that way you're using it daily. It just becomes a routine, and like we've talked about, your child can pick that up and look at it, and they can start doing it independently. Mark off the day when you're done doing the activities so that your work day is complete. This can be your work calendar, really a useful tool to use. I want to mention also on our platform last week and this week, we have a couple of sites for you to go to for alphabet books and for number books. Virtual library, it's a really neat thing, and you can find all kinds of fun books to have there on the computer and pick out for your child to listen to and follow along. I hope you're having fun learning, and you have a great rest of your week.